of time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts I've healed our faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts I've healed our faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe.
Go. Renee?
Yes. It's good to go?
Yep.
Hi, everyone. It's ReneMarie from ReneMarie Stroke of Luck. We're sorry for the technical difficulties we just had, but when you got to do things from this manner, things happen. So welcome, 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 welcome. We have the best of the best today. And before we get to our special guests who are really very important, having a very important message today about vitamin D, I would like to welcome my co-host, Judy, to the Zoom world. Hi, Judy.
Hi.
Welcome.
It's good to be here.
It's good to see your face. You were joining us via voice, via phone, but we never saw your face and your beautiful face. So thank you so much for Andrew, her husband, went out and bought a laptop. So they are in now.
Yes.
So how's it going, Judy? You good?
Very well, yes.
Good. That's a blessing because the world is a little crazy right now. So let me introduce two really important doctors. And I say they're important doctors because I love their mindset. Their mindset is never just one avenue for people. It's really individual. And when Dr. Roxanne and I were talking at the in our green room, a Zoom green room, we were saying how each individual has to be looked at differently, and really it's our responsibility as people. I don't know why my camera keeps getting lighter and darker and all that, but why each individual you have to look at individually, and it's our responsibility as people to do research when something comes up. You really shouldn't listen to just one form of information that's given to you because each person is so different. So it's important that you research and figure out, oh, that sounds good for me. This sounds okay. And really to work with your doctors. So I'm really happy to invite both of our guests back to the show. Dr. Mike. Welcome, Dr. Mike. I'm sorry, I should have invited. Well, let's go to Dr. Roxana, because women in my world, in the old-fashioned world, we should welcome women. What should we do? We should greet women before men. Is that sexist?
I hope not.
Right? Am I being crazy, Dr. Mike?
No, you're not crazy. It's just that it's an old world uh, protocol.
Oh, okay. So can I
Dr.
if
Mike for the old world protocol.
what's that?
I said, thank you, Dr. Mike, for the old world protocol.
Okay.
You're
Yeah. So
welcome.
let me I love you both the same. Let me start with that.
Okay.
So, Dr. Roxana, welcome to our show once again. The last show we did where we had the vegetables and we were showing the vegetables was a hit. I mean, the photo and the show was a hit. So it was awesome that you brought the vegetables to show what specific vegetable was tied in. Vitamin D, vitamin D. So welcome to the show today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Renee, for having me.
You're very welcome. Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike is my chiropractor, but also he's a partner with our associate, with our foundation. And, I love you both because you both really do think out of the box. And I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation today about vitamin D and the importance of it and how really to get to it. And then Judy has some amounts that people should take at a certain age. And I know you're both going to chime into that because, like I said before, that's just one stream of information. It really has nothing to do with the person individually. So welcome, Dr. Mike.
Thank you for having me on.
So before we start with the vitamin D, I want to go to Dr. Roxana because I know we're dealing still with the COVID-19, and she had posted a really very interesting video, which my sister, who's in the studio, in the Jersey studio, was very it thought things along the same lines as you, Dr. Roxana. What was that you were talking about the trees with the COVID-19? Like, what was your thought process behind it, and what was it?
So there's the oak tree that makes a sweet gum seed, and those seeds are the little seeds with the spikes on them. So I became very obsessed. I call it Corona obsession. I mean, I was Corona crazy and just trying to get out there and educate people. I was in an infectious disease conference in Manatee County when it hit Manatee County. So I really had I'm going to say, an upper hand on bringing education to the public. So that little gum seed, which looked like a coronavirus, that video went viral. Channel 2 picked it up. It was aired in Japan, in China, in Israel, in Iran. I mean, it was amazing. The people that reached out and said, now I get it. And a person reached out to me in the Midwest that said, that's the gum seed. And from the gum seed, they make Tamiflu, which is for the H1N1 virus. So I was like, wowed by that. So I look into these trees, and the trees have 5 species. We have 5 lobes in our lung, and it winds up in the bark of this tree. It makes losartan. So Roche Labs actually extracts this, a sap from the bark of this tree and makes losartan, which has been also shown to block the CoV-2 virus in the lungs. So it's truly, truly a godsend. I mean, when you look at this, these little round spiky things, we just go, oh, they're just annoying. But it winds up the trees are most common in Asia and North America.
Wow.
And when you look at the amount of coronavirus, North America and Asia was the top in the world.
Wow.
So it's I'm a godly person, and I look up in the sky and I go, wow, the answer's right here. So hopefully that video went out, and I reached out to scientists and said, please, investigate this. If you could make Tamiflu out of the gum seed and the losartan out of the bark of the tree, and both are related to viral syndromes, let's get working on it.
Wow. Dr. Mike, do you know about this?
No, I did not.
No one knows about it. Only me. That's my right.
No, because I saw it and I was very intrigued by it. So that it is reaching people, and I'm sure once Dr. Mike gets off this show, he's going to do his research on finding out. And Dr. Mike's voice is as loud as yours vocally. And actually, he puts a newsletter out that I'm sure that if it's something that is, he finds interesting, he will definitely put it in his newsletter and stream out as well. So it's really important that you know that. Yeah, can you get her because my dog is crying. So it's really important that we, make our voices heard. And we want to save people's lives. That's really the bottom line is you want to save people's lives. So thank you, Dr. Roxana, for doing that type of work. I mean, to me, I can't understand how if somebody like yourself, a doctor, knows something like that and you're making people aware of it and it makes sense to people if it streams around the world, how come they're not hooking up?
It's the investigative mind, and that's how I treat every single body. I'm the investigator. I have to find out what's going on in someone's body and look at the causes of diseases. And this really bothered me. Like, where, first of all, it's an old virus, right? It's CoV-2. So everyone has an understanding with that. CoV-2 is 2002. It's the SARS virus from China, 2002. COVID-19 is the disease that is caused by CoV-2, so the COV in COVID. ID is infectious disease, so CoV-2, infectious disease, 2019. So that's where that COVID-19 came from. It was funny, the president just said like a week ago, COVID-19, where did we get that name from? And I wanted to email him right away and go, how it came about, and they named it for that. But I just, this CoV-2 virus got me. I became very obsessed and I couldn't sleep. And I came up with that video with the scrambled eggs on how to explain how it attacks the elderly body at 2 o'clock in the morning. And my husband was totally obsessed with this. But I'm obsessed with educating people and finding out what's the cause.
Right, right. And you do a great job. And, you're an important factor in the. I think this COVID-19 is really enlightening us on some new and old. We're going back to. We should go back to the basic in life, right? Go back to the way people used to a long time ago take medicines and stuff, right? You're going back to the true earth. So it's really important that we do that. And whatever, if you want to do a whole show on that, Dr. Roxana, let us know because we would do a whole show on that and stream it. We've gotten up to I think 16,000 views on the show, Judy.
15,540 as of last night. With knowledge is power.
Yes. And that's what we're talking about. Knowledge is power. So thank you so much. So Judy will hook you up if you want to do a whole show. But let's get to our topic today because, I've been hearing, as you say, Dr. Roxana, faith, and I know Dr. Mike and Judy have faith as well. And, I've been hearing a lot about vitamin D, vitamin D, vitamin D, vitamin D. And I wanted to have a conversation about it. That's why we had this show. So Dr. Mike, tell us the importance that you think vitamin D affects or helps.
Vitamin D impacts so many of our genes. What it does is it will turn off bad genes and turn on good genes. And it really is important. We were talking before about COVID-19, about SARS-CoV-2 virus, because the vitamin D, what it does is that it helps what's called the cytokine storm in the lungs. Because what happens, these cytokines are produced through an inflammatory process in the body. And what came out a number of weeks ago was that the higher level of vitamin D that you have, the lower the incidence and severity of COVID-19. Wow. So that is extremely important. And I thought that would occur. I actually was writing about that a number of weeks before it became, I was predicting that would occur, which it did. And what's so important is that, first of all, it comes from the sun. The cheapest, easiest way to obtain vitamin D is going out in the sun. But as we age, our ability to produce vitamin D with our skin diminishes. And what's very interesting, though, is the best time to get your vitamin D is between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. That's when the ultraviolet B rays are the strongest. Ultraviolet A is throughout the whole day, and that can produce skin cancer. So you get your most bang for your buck, per se, between 10 and 2, but that's the time they say don't go out in the sun. That's the time to produce the best vitamin D. When you use a sunscreen, it inhibits your ability to produce D. But I tell my patients, don't use sunscreen, but then,
That's very interesting.
but cover yourself or use sunscreen, get out of the sun after you have about maybe 10 minutes of exposure or so. You want to get a little bit of exposure, but you don't want to get exposure so your skin turns pink. As soon as that happens, you're doing damage to your body and the vitamin D plummets. You want to get good skin exposure, but in moderation, just like you're talking about old school and old world, things in moderation and no excesses. And the reasons why we're not as healthy as we should be are excesses and deficiencies in one simple sentence. We discussed this before,
Wow.
Renee. But anyway, just going back to vitamin D, it's so important. It impacts our cardiovascular system, which we'll talk about stroke coming up. It impacts our ability to heal. There was a study that was done a number of years ago with the NFL Combine. And the NFL, the college students are going to be auditioning to get drafted. And they found that the ones with the highest levels of vitamin D had the lowest number of times they were injured during the college career. And the highest level, the least number. So it protects us against injury. It helps us emotionally. It helps us with depression. It helps build strong bones and teeth, as we probably all know. That's the main thing. But just to look into the stroke aspect of it, and I know you sent me some information that a study was done that people take vitamin D and calcium can increase their chances of stroke. And that is true. A study was done, but scares people off because they're not taking vitamin K2 along with it. And K2 is essential, vitamin K2, to get the calcium to the bones and teeth where it belongs, not the soft tissues and the arteries where it does not belong. And I'll turn it over to you because I know you said to keep it about 3
Well, I just because I have so many questions for Dr. Roxana while you're talking with so much information. And you know what, Dr. Mike? You are both of you are so brilliant, and my sister as well, with the information that I am like a general layperson. I don't know anything about medicines. I'm just the source of the channel for the information to come out in the world. But it gets too combobulated for me once you start with all those important details. So that's why I just want to keep things down to a minimum.
Keep it simple. And said before about faith. I have very strong faith in the two greatest gifts God gave us, and we talked about this before: the human body and the planet Earth. We have to be good stewards of those gifts. And God made us to be functioning perfectly. But if we don't get the right fuel into our bodies and the right situation, we can't be at our maximum potential. Right. So we can identify, what Dr. Roxana was saying before, about the individual situation. We have to identify what does this person need to make them healthier. And unfortunately, we don't get the true aspect of our health from how we feel, because you hear somebody go out for a jog and they drop dead of a heart attack. Obviously, they won't be going for a jog, they'll be going to the emergency room. So a lot of times the symptoms, and this is where Eastern and Western medicine differ, where natural medicine differs from, the pill for the ill type of philosophy. But, you have to try to get to the point where you have a reading of what the person needs before they become symptomatic. Because sometimes when they become symptomatic, it's very bad. You need a 40% alteration in nerve impulse before you feel clean. But, somebody bends down to pick up newspaper, they throw the back out. They weren't okay before they bent down to pick up the newspaper, but they felt okay. So I'm sure Dr. Roxana has a lot to add.
Go ahead, Dr. Roxana, take it away.
So love it, Mike, Dr. Mike, the way you explained it. So the first thing in anti-aging regenerative medicine, vitamin D is not a vitamin. It's a pro-hormone. Okay, so like you said, Dr. Mike, it stimulates hormones. We need vitamin D for hormonal balance. So vitamin D is there to produce hormones. That's the first thing. Second thing vitamin D does, it's an immunomodulator. So like you said, it increases your immune system. It actually works on the white blood cell. There's receptors on the white blood cell that boost up, your immunity, and vitamin D stimulates that. The third thing vitamin D does is that it increases insulin receptors, extremely important in diabetics. So if you have a good amount of insulin in your body, but you don't have the receptor, which is the lock and key, here's the receptor, it takes the insulin into the cell, and then it brings the sugar into the cell that you can use it in your body for energy, right? So insulin, again, is the receptors are produced by vitamin D. So 3 really important things. In reference to, you made reference to CoV-2. Immediately, like vitamin D has been around a long time, and the reason why we need supplementation is because number one, let food be thy medicine, right? People are not eating enough good fat. So your vitamin D comes from good fat in your diet. Always diet first, supplement second, medicine last. I teach all my patients that.
Say it again.
Food first.
I just want to, I really want, because that was an important statement that you made. So I want to see to say it again.
Absolutely. Food first, supplement second, medicine last. And medicine's good. So no one should poo-poo medicine, because medicine has made a huge difference in an extension of life. So when we can't get it in from food. So vitamin D, you need to eat good fats, okay? The reason why the Black-brown community has suffered so much during CoV-2, because again, they lost their immunomodulator, which is vitamin D. They have their own protective barrier. The darker your skin, that's your sunscreen. So in general, Black-brown people cannot convert their vitamin D from the sun. And often they'll stay away from the sun because they don't want to get darker. Unlike the Caucasian person that goes out there and gets, like Dr. Mike said, a sunburn or something like that. So the reason why that CoV-2 virus hit the Black-brown community, I believe, is because their vitamin D levels are down in the 5s. Now, in anti-aging regenerative medicine, we want it between 50 and 70. The majority of my patients, I am so happy to say, out of 5,500 patients, active patients that I see on a regular basis, we had 37 that had the COVID-19. 36 were treated at home, did not require hospitalization, and was self-limiting. And when I looked at it, those 37 had vitamin D levels of an average of 38. So I know that was under. If they were 50 to 70, like all the rest of the patients, they wouldn't have had that. And the one that required hospitalization, she is Indian, so she's considered brown color. And her vitamin D level was low. And her hospitalization was 3 days. She was discharged home and did very well. So Dr. Mike, vitamin D is very important, like you said, for your immune system to boost it up.
Yeah, Dr. Mike, I see you.
Yeah, chomping at the bit.
Yeah. Well, that's just what I wanted. I wanted a conversation. Yeah. I wanted to hear both your inputs because they're out of the box, both of them. And just so you know, my sisters are going like this to both of you. So go ahead.
Well, one thing I want to mention, which I'm glad you said about being a pre-hormone, and one thing that's also makes hormones that people don't think that much about, they think it's bad, is cholesterol.
Yes.
And cholesterol is extremely important to make hormones. And also the brain, there's so much cholesterol in the brain. So fats are extremely important in the foods. A lot of the fish are very high in like tuna and mackerel and sardines, very high in vitamin D. But as far as in the vegetable world, there's not that many, but egg yolks and also mushrooms are relatively high in vitamin D. Vitamin D is fortified and put into a lot of things. But what I like is vitamin D3 over D2, because D2 is synthetic. But what I didn't really quite get ever is why the prescription vitamin D is 50,000 units a day of D2 once a week. It makes a lot more sense to me to take 10,000 units a day for 5 days and maybe the weekends off, because you don't want to get a big, jolt of it and then nothing. But definitely food first. But the problem with food is that we don't have the nutritional value because the soil isn't as healthy as it used to be, and they're over farming. And for example, selenium in a head of lettuce. I read this once; it really stuck in my head. Even if it's organic, you need like 20 heads of lettuce to get the same selenium as you did from a head of lettuce from 100 years ago. And God created the earth to give us everything that we need to be healthy. And the soil is so unique. And I wrote one time a ebook on the way the earth is so unique and all the things about the earth that makes it so great for us to live on. And one thing that I found out, which is incredible, is that carbon dioxide, and this is off topic though, but God and faith and creation, and that it didn't happen by chance. Things didn't happen by chance. And that the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was so high, but what happened was that these plants took carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and created fossil fuels. Yeah. And the bacteria to break down cellulose did not exist. Like how trees rot in the forest, did not exist before the fossil fuel deposits were created. So it's amazing. So God, provided many things for us, including fuel. We can't burn too much of it to raise the carbon dioxide.
Renee?
Judy, hold on 1 second. I'm going to let you talk next, but I had a thought. Judy, can you schedule for us a show about the soil?
Certainly.
Just because, and I'd love to have you both back to talk about, let's go back to basic and let's talk about the soil and God and plants in society. My sister's recommending here. Plants.
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe Debbie will show her beautiful face on that program. So because she's right in line with both of you. I just got to tell you.
It's a great book too, The Plant-Based Diet, Dr. Gundry.
Yeah.
And Game Changers, a great movie too, with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jackie Chan was involved with that too. But how people don't think that they can get all the nutrition from plants. A lot of vegetarians are not that healthy because they're not doing it properly. But it's done properly, actually increases virility. It increases like so many aspects of our health. I try to do it personally myself for a while, but I do need some animal protein. I feel myself. And Dr. Chen, who I know is doctor of Chinese medicine, he said that we have 4 canine teeth and 32 teeth. So 1/8 or 12.5% of our nutrition should come from animal sources. That's what he has.
Wow.
Dr. Mike, to that point with vegetables and things like that, Renee, I don't know if you remember when we looked at the vegetables, I was teaching the public at that time that, when you slice a carrot, that carrot looks like an eye, right? So carrots are great for the eyes. When you look at grapes, okay, grapes look like what's called alveoli of the lung. So those are antioxidants. They contain certain things to replenish the lung. So when you look at food, look at what the food looks like. So a walnut looks like a brain. So already you know that's good for the brain. Walnuts are very high in B12 and folic acid, extremely important for the brain. So when we look at food, we must look at it as that food helping us. And plant-derived foods, you had mentioned proteins. You could get your proteins from seeds. So chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds, very high in protein. I myself, I make my mix. I put like a third. I go to, the supermarket, get the big bags of hemp, pumpkin, and chia seeds, and I put them all in a big container, mix them up, and every day I take 2 tablespoons of that. So 2 tablespoons of that is roughly about 20 grams of protein. Most people will require anywhere from 40 to 60 grams of protein. And again, plant-based is definitely better. So the vegan movement that's out there, just like all of these other movements that are out there, we should pay attention to them. And veganism is they don't eat any animal products. And it's interesting. I tried that diet, but it is very difficult. And I really give like a kudos to those people that really stick with that because they've learned how to supplement. Just 2 days ago, I had a Beyond Burger. Did anyone have Beyond Burger?
No.
That thing tastes like a hamburger, and it is all seeds. It's amazing. And I gave it to my daughter, and she was like, "Wow, this hamburger's so good." It's all seeds. It's all plant-based. So, if we move towards that, I think it would be good. But really, think of let food be thy medicine, right? And God did a great job. I mean, I'm a believer in God. Okay, so I say it like it is. You could say your higher being, your Buddha, whomever you want to, honor yourself with. That's all up to everyone. But to me, it's God, and God gave us that COVID little, gum seed to say, hey, look at me, I look like COVID.
Right.
Look at me, I'm a walnut. Look at me, I look like a brain. Look at pumpkin seed. I look like, and I'm going to say it's sperm. It increases sperm. It has a lot of zinc. So I tell my men, here, get your pumpkin seeds. Boy, pumpkin seed goes off the shelf the next day when you have pumpkin seeds. And I think my Jim made a reference like, oh, I'm going to get some pumpkin seeds the last show we did. So it's really interesting. And I just want to mention, too, you had mentioned cholesterol, right? Cholesterol is a good fat. So I'm going to put up this little diagram because I think people really need to know the science behind it. Sometimes it's not good enough for me and, Dr. Mike to say it. But here is your metabolism of cholesterol. Everyone see this?
Yes.
Where cholesterol is?
Yes.
Cholesterol produces all of those things. And as you see, you could see that it produces pregnenolone, which is for the brain. It produces DHEA, which is your cortisol. It produces progesterone. It produces estrogen. It produces testosterone. See those mast cells? Those are your allergy cells. So yes, guys, cholesterol, like Dr. Mike said, is so important. And when we give people medications such as statins, I teach a lot of PAs, nurse practitioners, and doctors. And Renee, as you know, I'm an international speaker on educating doctors on if you prescribe a medication, you better know the depletions it causes. Mm-hmm. And when you prescribe a statin, you're depleting all of that. If that cholesterol level drops below 140.
Dr. Roxanne, would you send Renee and I a copy of that?
Yeah, I can scan. I'll scan that in.
Thank you very much.
Whatever. I'm an old person.
Well, it's interesting though with
my daughter to scan things in. So
with statins also depletes the body of CoQ10 and vitamin K2. And vitamin K2 prevents the plaque forming on the arteries. So you're doing something that actually is contraindicated if you don't follow the proper nutritional protocols to or supplementation. But one thing that I'm not sure if you know about this, Dr. Roxana, I found this out a couple years ago.
Roxanne's right. By the way,
Roxanne?
Mike, it's Roxanne.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, Roxanne, I'm sorry.
It was emailed to me. It was Roxana what was emailed to me.
Roxana. It's okay. I don't people. It's,
Just don't call you late for dinner, right?
I'm Roxanne, like that song, you don't have to put out the red light. You're gonna give a song like that to me?
Well, we want to talk about red lights. But although red light is very bad for the eyes as far as at night, I'm sorry, very good for the eyes at night, not very bad because green and blue are bad, but your clock radio should be red or orange, not blue or green, because those colors are good for the production of melatonin at night. Other colors are not. It crashes melatonin production. That's a story from
another day. I love your brain, Dr. Mike. I love your brain.
Okay.
Immediately, your brain thinks prevention like me.
Immediately. But as I mentioned before, what's very important is that the body, sometimes when you have high cholesterol, is neuroprotective against That's why I do a lot of testing for heavy metals. Neuroprotective against mercury. So when you use a statin to drop the cholesterol, it can cause damage to the nervous system. As I tell it to my patients all the time, nothing happens in the human body by accident. Everything has a purpose. That's the way God created us. So you have to ask, why is this happening? Not try to force the body to do what you want, but to try to help the body to maintain or regain a balance, a homeostasis.
Renee, I'd like to mention 2 statements that I think would be very helpful.
Go ahead, Judy.
And I have 3 questions.
And just so you know, we've been talking for 40 minutes already. So like
You have to smoke yet. You have to
what's that?
And then I'd like to have feedback after I finish from the 2 doctors. The foods that have vitamin D are milk, has 2% milk fat, vitamin D fortified if you have 1 cup, sardines, Atlantic sardines, canned in oil, drained, 2 sardines, soy, almond, and oat milks, vitamin D fortified. There's various brands, and you should have at least 1 cup. Ready-to-eat cereal fortified with 10% of the DV for vitamin D, 1 serving. An egg, 1 large scrambled egg. The vitamin D is in the yolk. Liver, beef, braised, about 3 ounces. Tuna fish light, canned in water, drained, 3 ounces. Cheddar cheese, 1 ounce. Mushrooms, chicken breast roasted, about 3 inches. And I wanted to mention the amount of vitamin D people should have at various ages, and I'd like to get your feedback. From 0 to 12 months, 400 units. From 1 to 13 years, 600. From 14 years to 18 years, 600. From 19 to 50 years, 600. 51 to 70, 600. And from 70 years old and up, 800 units. And I wanted to know my 3 questions for Dr. Roxanne and Dr. Mike are, I have been taking D3 and I kept hearing about D, and I thought I should add D, and I went to a number of stores, including a health food store, that straightened me out and said, no, it's D3, and I'm taking 2,000 units of it. I want to know how much K2 should be added, and how much zinc. I take 25 milligrams of zinc. How much is recommended with that?
So what I do with that situation, I always go by blood levels. So everyone's an individual, your absorption is different, your metabolism, your genetics, all of that. And again, black, brown, Caucasian, it all counts. And like you mentioned, young people, older people, you have to do a level. Now, the babies were born very vitamin D depleted because the mom was vitamin D depleted. Because in pregnant women, they were only recommending 2,000 IUs per day. So in my practice, and like Dr. Mike's practice, we probably use 5,000 to 10,000 IUs a day because that's what we need. As society has changed and the ozone layer has changed, and the movement of wearing sunscreen, like Dr. Mike said before, I walk in the morning, half hour, early morning sun, and then when the sun goes down, and I'm tan. I have a tan, and people, oh, you lay? I don't lay in the sun. It's just from the walking, and by the way, I don't take a vitamin D supplement because my vitamin D is good. My absorption is great. So it depends upon a lot of factors. The average that I find in my practice, we're on at least 5,000 to 10,000 IUs. I use D3. I do use D3. A vitamin recommendation for my patients. The D2, like Dr. Mike, you mentioned before, the D2 with the 50,000 IUs is a prescription. And I use that for people that they're not compliant. So, the once a week is good, especially the college student. They're so depleted. So I go, okay, you take the 50,000. Now, there are people that D2 converts to D3. Now, hopefully they are a converter. If they're not a converter, you're going to find it on the next blood level that their D level did not go up. And then that's when I would add a K2. And I don't have many people on K2. I have to say, Dr. Mike, maybe your population a little different, but I have a lot of people on D3, but not many on K2, because I encourage at least 80% of the diet should be leafy greens, and the greener the better. So they're getting, and I know the Ks are different. There's K1, K2,
Right.
but I haven't gotten that. So you're more the expert in that.
Well, first of all, there's no blood test for K2 right now.
Right.
There probably will be eventually. So just like there's no blood test for vitamin D, and now there is. So, so many people in the population, and by different opinions, maybe 80% of the population is vitamin D deficient and magnesium deficient too. It's very deficient in magnesium. Magnesium is so important for mitochondrial
How
health.
much
With
magnesium
K2,
should a person take?
well, it all depends on, what they're doing in their diet. I really like Epsom salt baths too for getting magnesium to the body. And then there's different forms of magnesium. I like magnesium citrate's a good form, but maybe like around 600 milligrams or 800. What do you think, Dr. Roxanne?
Yeah, the way I gauge magnesium is if you're constipated, you need more of it. If you have diarrhea, back off of it. Very hard to overdose on magnesium. Mm-hmm. So some people may need 500 milligrams twice a day. And I tell them, I originally would start them with 500 milligrams twice a day. If they don't poop in 2 to 3 days, because you should be pooping every day. And yes, we should have a whole talk on poop, because everyone should poop and know how much they poop and all that stuff, right? So poop is good. So people should be pooping every day. And 98% of the people are mag depleted, and those are the people that are constipated. So when we give them magnesium, 500 twice a day, they still don't go. I go up to 3 times a day until you're pooping every day, and then back off. So I gauge magnesium levels by pooping. That's it. So there's my answer on that.
My sister's got a question.
I just want to know, is magnesium safe for young children, like children especially that have celiac disease and have a slower digestive system? Would it be safe for a younger child?
But you have to be careful, especially with celiac, because magnesium could be an irritant. And like Dr. Mike said, there are different forms. So in that, like magnesium citrate goes into the kidneys, so I would use something like that. And again, you have to be careful with that. I always, food first. So with that person, I would increase, like their nuts, their seeds, and, some fruits that contain the magnesium. So it's difficult, and everyone's an individual.
We didn't finish it with vitamin K. Vitamin K1, which is what's considered regular vitamin K, that is converted by 10% to vitamin K2, but they're two different, chemical formulas. And what I recommend with K2 is 10 micrograms of K2 for every 1,000 international units of D3 in that ratio. And actually have some drops to have that in that ratio. And the thing that we have to remember too with elderly people, a lot of times with pills, that they don't really digest the pills that well. A lot of times they just poop out the pills. So liquids or like a pill grinder a lot of times works very well for the elderly because it increases the absorption much more.
Right, yeah.
But in that ratio, I like to see that. And if you are eating a lot of green leafy vegetables, you're getting more K. And then also a very good source of K2 is nattokinase, which is a fermented soy, but it has to be organic because the vast majority of soy is GMO soy. And I do not agree with the scientists and the doctors that think that genetically modified food is fine, because it is not, in my opinion. Very bad for you.
Absolutely.
And the glyphosate or the Roundup that's in it too, because a lot of times they make it Roundup ready so they can douse the fields with Roundup and not kill the crop. And it's very bad. And all those lawsuits now, I heard this over a decade ago about how Roundup causes cancer. 2016, the World Health Organization deemed it a probable carcinogen. And now we can't watch TV for a day without seeing at least 1-2 commercials if you've been injured by Roundup to contact this law firm.
Yeah. So glyphosate, you can't get a blood test on glyphosate, but I use a biocommunication system that we pick it up. And the way I treat glyphosate is with acupuncture. Acupuncturists, especially people that are trained in NAET, N-A-E-T. Are you familiar with that, Dr. Mike?
No, I'm not.
The NAET practitioners, it goes by energy or frequency of the cell. So glyphosate has a negative frequency. And when we treat it and try to make the body increase its immune system or its frequency, it really goes by, again, electrical energy, which is amazing. And, you can clear out glyphosate using NAET, N-A-E-T. So that's a great conversation to have with Roundup. And when I do the biocommunication system, I'm getting a lot of glyphosates. In the past, I'd say 4 years. Recognized it about 4 years ago, contacted a person in California who was doing similar testing, and they said, yeah, we're getting a lot of testing too. So glyphosates are on the rise. There was a great study that was done with glyphosates from a woman who did extensive studies, has a PhD, and it was squashed, of course, because everything is dollars, money, and all that stuff. So, yeah, really important with Roundup glyphosate, toxicity.
Right. Well, the
Vitamin D helps it, Dr. Mike. Vitamin D helps it. So everyone out there, your vitamin D is an immunomodulator. So it will protect you with your metals. It will protect you with glyphosate. It will protect you with viruses. It will protect you with your hormones. Everything. Take your vitamin D.
Can I ask a question? Okay, so we're talking about like health and preventative medicine. That's what we're talking about here, to keep people healthy. Now, those of us that have suffered strokes, should we be taking vitamin D?
Absolutely.
Yes.
100%.
So, Dr. Mike, you share why first.
Well, first of all, vitamin D, they said, as long as you get the K2, also it helps stop the plaque from forming on the arteries. And that's something that's related to, stroke, when you start to get a lot of plaque formation as well as heart attacks. And when the plaque forms, it makes the arterial wall a lot more brittle, and it makes it more apt to have some sort of cardiovascular event. So it's extremely important, as well as all the other aspects of it. As we mentioned before, Dr. Roxanne mentioned all the different positive aspects of vitamin D. So it's why the information you sent me too, a lot of times after stroke, people don't get in the sun as much too. So they might need more supplementation because they're not as active as they were before. I'm sure Dr. Roxanne wants to add some things.
No, that was perfect, Dr. Mike, perfect. I mean, everything you said, absolutely true. And nattokinase is used as a natural blood thinner as well. So a lot of people will take nattokinase to thin out the blood. So, but absolutely you should be on your blood thinners if you have a stroke and you have other things. I'm not saying go off any blood thinners, but nattokinase is used as a natural blood thinner.
And the other thing, when you ferment the soy too, there's a lot of controversy with soy as far as being estrogen mimicker. Mm-hmm. And what happens is when you ferment it, it doesn't have that effect on the body.
My sister has another question, but I also have a question. First of all, we always advocate to work with your physicians, your doctors, your chiropractors, your acupuncturists. You need a team around you before you even have a stroke. This is important to set the basis for your life, to make sure that you're maintaining your life in the proper way, because like you said, Dr. Roxanne, that we're all different. We all have to have blood tests to make sure that we're in gear. But I mean, I sometimes, and I'm gonna be honest, sometimes you talk about all these intricate, what's the word, parts to the conversation, like, and I don't understand what it is you're saying, right? I'm being a lay person on the outside, So how do we, I guess I answered my own question. We have to work with our doctors, but it's so intricate. It really goes back to basics, but it's very intricate. It's really very interesting.
We have to look at it almost like a military operation. The environment is trying to kill us. It's a war. Donald Trump said about it's a war against the virus. And it's true. With every war, you have offense and defense. And the problem is that we have to look at every aspect of life and see, what the things we should be doing and not doing, because you go crazy over all the problems or the pollution. And just recently, a friend of mine, another doctor, sent me an article about why the sky is more, the clouds are whiter because of the oceans having the breakdown of plastics, and the plastics in the atmosphere. So even organic, even rainwater has plastic in it. It's very depressing. So we have to look at all the aspects of life and talk about energy medicine before, and look at EMF, all the bad energy from smart meters, from cell towers, from cell phones, from Wi-Fi. And some people are electromagnetic sensitive and has much bigger effect on them, just like some people are sensitive to corn or wheat. But you have to look at everything that we do and look at a military operation, everything we put in our bodies, on our bodies, our behavior, our sleep, our stress, and the stress that people are under now with, the whole lockdown, not being able to see their parents, in a nursing home. It's horrific. One of my patients died in February, and the wife couldn't go to the hospital.
I know.
It's horrible. I mean, we're experiencing something we've never experienced before as, humanity.
Yeah. My sister has a question, and I know, Dr. Roxanne, you wanted to answer Dr. Mike, but what was your question?
Just very simply, and also thank you guys so much, because you really are doing the fight for keeping everybody healthy. It's really a fight in our society, and I really appreciate all the information that I'm getting from you, and I'm sure so many other people do. But my other question was in relation to stroke, and I know that Dr. Mike had said with the plaque, vitamin D is really good for cholesterol and plaque and minimizing it. But what about using it as an anticoagulant in a stroke patient? I know that you say you have to look at that individually and look at their blood and what they need, but is that also helpful?
There's a lot of natural ways too. Instead of using blood thinners, there's a lot of like heparin. Instead of using that, there's a lot of ways to. Dr. Roxanne knows a lot about that too, about like CoQ10 and vitamin C and vitamin E. There's a bunch of different things you can do to thin the blood. The INR test, which is for how thick, how viscous the blood is, there's ways of doing naturally. And basically, the blood thinners are rat poison. That's how they kill the rats, by giving them. It's very toxic to the human body. Dr. Roxanne, you can.
Yeah, I think with blood thinners and stuff, the answer to your question, again, with this vitamin D and all of that, again, everyone's an individual. And we spoke on a previous show about the genetic factors of stroke as well. So really important to get your genetics tested, because there are genetic factors related to stroke. And really, stroke prevention is starting at food first, always, and teaching yourself, like you said, be your own advocate, to teach yourself a healthy lifestyle. Stay away from inflammatory foods, because once you put in these toxic meats and toxic foods and cake and cookies and all that, those are pro-inflammatory. So they're going to make a vessel swell. It's going to decrease the opening of that vessel. You're going to release, like Dr. Mike said, cytokines, and you form this cytokine reaction. The best thing to prevent a cytokine reaction is vegetables. So the greener, the better. So 80% of your diet should be vegetables. And a point about life, right? All lives matter. All. You know why, people, everyone out there, listen to this one statement I'm going to tell you all, and that's why all lives matter, is because you have 1 in a 3 million chance of being born and put on this earth. 1 in 3 million. So that means Renee, myself, Dr. Mike, Judy, and everyone listening on this call, 1 in a 3 million chance. And I'm sorry, I get angry because to me, it is so difficult to be be born and become a human. And we should be respectful of all of that. And I think once we look up in the sky and say, God, thank you. You know, you have blessed me with the most beautiful life. And every life that is put on this earth should make a difference. And protesting is making a difference. And all of these things out there are making a difference. And we should continue to make a difference in a peaceful way. So I just wanted to get an opportunity of saying, you know what, everyone out there marching and protesting and stuff, your lives matter. Everyone's lives matter. And, you know, everyone is going to be, as a human being, listening to each other and making a difference in this world, because every single person is on this earth to make a difference.
That couldn't have been a better way to end our show. That couldn't have been. I mean, you said it perfectly, Dr. Roxanne. Thank you so much.
I just want to add.
Mike, go ahead.
I want to add before we end. Everything that we do and everything we eat either makes us have the probability of living longer and not as long. So everything that we do matters. And when we help others, what happens is that it actually is very healing for us. And one of the best things to do to help other people, you get the endorphins produced in your body, that, pay it forward and help other people. It's not only helping them, but it's helping yourself. So it's one of the best things that we can do is not only help ourselves, but help others. And by doing that, we do help ourselves twice. Once, satisfaction, and second, as far as physiologically and spiritually.
Renee, I want to add to that.
Go ahead, Judy.
Remember this: service above self.
That's a Rotary quote, and they do phenomenal work, the Rotary, Just so everybody knows, we had Ann Agueli pop on our next show. We always, Ann and I and Judy have been working on Pearls of Wisdom, and that's going to be on our next. So, hi, Ann, how are you?
Hi, guys, how are you?
Hi, Ann.
Hi, so happy to see you.
Hi, Ann.
So, give us a few minutes, Ann, because we're closing out right now,
Of
and
course.
we're gonna close the show and then reopen it so we have separate, so people can watch separately since they're different topics. I really want to thank both of you Judy and I want to thank both of you for taking your time today, because, time is very valuable. Our lives are, the older we get, the time just goes faster and faster and faster. And each thing you decide to do in your life, you really has to be a meaning behind it. And we are so grateful for both of you for the abundance of information to help people live a healthy lifestyle. You both spoke so eloquently and really provided a basis to the way people should live. Kelly's coming on now. Hi, Kelly, how are you? She can't hear me yet. So I really want to thank both of you so much. Do you have any, I know you both said a last wonderful quote, but did you have anything else that you wanted to share before we close out? And again, you're going to be back on our show, because I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions streaming in from this conversation that we had, and it's not ending here. It's going to continue. So did you have anything that you wanted to say, Dr. Roxanne?
Just God bless you all, and God bless you for everything you do, Renee, and bringing all of this to the table. So God bless.
Yes, we love what we do, Judy and I, and my foundation, and Ann and Kelly, and thank you so much. And we couldn't do it without you being a part of it. And I will be sitting here without my sister when I had my stroke. So it was, and she's going to come on. Judy's going to set my sister up to do a show about, because the truth is, I don't even remember some of my stroke situations. I don't, maybe I blocked it out subconsciously so I could just, because I do that. I think that's just a motivational thing. Like, okay, this happened. Okay, what are we doing moving forward? I don't take the time to look about my past. I'm like, okay, that happened. Okay, what am I going to do about it? That's why I'm writing my book, Extra Inning. When you get into an extra inning in a game, you don't, the last 7 innings don't matter anymore, right? They don't matter. What you're going to do in that extra inning of your life is what is important. So maybe I blocked it out subconsciously, maybe I blocked it out, but I do want to revisit and have the details, because as you could tell by the conversation you had with my sister, she's very medical and she understands that process and everything.
I did want to say one more thing
Yeah,
too.
Dr. Mike.
You brought up a very good point about time. And time is something that can never be replaced. We can replace a lot of things. We can get an artificial limb. We can, house burns down, we can get another one, a car. We can never replace time. Most of us will not live 1,000,000 hours. So if you waste an hour of someone's life, you've effectively stolen like maybe 1/1,000,000th of their life from them that can never be replaced. So you know, in my practice, when you come in, I always try to do my best to stay on time, to respect people's time. That's something that we should all try to think about, respecting everyone's time.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Mike. Thank you so much. And, we're just blessed. We're blessed, and I want to give a humble, while we're talking about time, my mind went to my confidant and my dear friend that just lost his son, and he's struggling. And I just want everybody to say a prayer, because he needs it. His family needs it. Him and his wife need it. And it's been a struggle. And, and I just take that information and say, that pushes me harder to do the work that I'm called to do, because I may not be here in the next minute. I always try to remember that. So hi, Kelly. Hi, Ann. Thank you so much, Dr. Mike, Dr. Roxana. Judy will be back with us. Ann will be back with us. Kelly will be on in a few minutes. It is a blessing. Deb, you want to be here and blow kisses with us? We always blow kisses. So God bless everybody. Thank you so much. Enjoy the moments. Life is a gift, and treasure it. On 3, we're going to blow kisses. 1, 2, 3. Bye, everybody. See you in a few minutes, Kelly.